Hello everybody, welcome back to the Sofa Squad. It's me, Paul, with reporting live from my sofa. Today we are going to be doing a quick little recap review of the most recent Jodi Arias thing that came out on ABC 2020 called Gone in a Flash. So what I want to do with this one, I'm not going to sit here and regurgitate everything that was on there because there's a lot of regurgitated information, but I will quickly go over it. I mostly want to talk about the stuff that stuck out to me in it that I was like, okay, this was interesting. So here we go. Now this whole thing is going to basically paint out the entire picture of the case. If you followed this case, if you've, not been a fan of it, but, just if you followed it, then you're going to recognize most all of this. Now, if you've been in it to win it with the case and read every book that came out about it, you're probably going to be like, next. But for me, what was interesting, it was the friends and his brother when we heard from them. So let's talk about that. So we mostly hear from Sky and Chris. Now, this was the couple that Travis and Jodi would meet up at their house because it was like a middle point. And so we hear the story basically from start to finish. And, they're talking, of course, they say, the things that they thought about Travis before Jodi. He was this great guy. He was really big in the Mormon church. He was really the pressure was kind of on to find a little wifey. Then they talk about the prepaid legal meeting where they met. And, she's like, yeah, instantly, there is these major fireworks between these two. Total chemistry, total attraction. And, they were just like, look, Jodi and Travis met. There was this attraction. She was this pretty girl. She seemed very nice. She seemed super into Travis. And they end up basically hanging out. She said, I think that Jodi and Travis stayed up till like 4 a.m. after the banquet talking. And so you can tell that there was like a natural chemistry there. And then they said, after the fact, Travis is like, that's my wife. That's who I'm going to marry. Mark my words. So, he was like smitten when this happened. And I think that that's important because it's interesting to see the trajectory of this relationship, but also to hear it from people who are watching it take place. So this is when they start going into the aspect of, they start this long distance relationship and they start meeting at Sky and Chris's house because it's like this in-between point. And again, in the beginning, they were like, what? Jodi was totally cool. She was totally into Travis. And they talk about the aspect of, what? Within a couple of months, Travis is like, hey, what? I'm sending the missionaries to her house because remember, he was very big in the Mormon community. He wanted like a Mormon wife. This is very important to him. And so he kind of starts, molding Jodi for that. She takes the bait, she takes it, and she converts to that religion. Now, and even the friend said, like, that's very major, but they're like, she did it because, she thought that's what Travis wanted her to do. And I get it, I'm not going to fault anybody for that. But on the same note, that is really, really major, to convert to someone's religion that you just met. And as we know, if you follow this case, Travis baptized her. It was a whole thing, so on and so forth. Now, Chris is even talking about situations where Travis was sent an email saying, oh my God, I'm so into Jodi. If I don't get to marry her, whoever marries her is going to hit the wife lotto. I mean, can you imagine in hindsight, especially the dude Ryan, who she was kind of seeing after the murder, like her alibi dude. I mean, can you imagine the dude she broke up with to go out with Travis? They're like, thank God. Now, we also hear from the brother, and he talks about, their childhood, and as we know, Travis and his siblings, they did not grow up with a very good childhood. Their parents were major drug addicts, were, passed out for days at a time, so on and so forth. And eventually the grandmother takes them in, turns them on to the Mormon church, and this is where Travis gets super into it. So that I thought was interesting to hear because, we can see, okay, this was a major identity for him. He didn't, when you're going from where they came from at home to a belonging, a sense of belonging such as that the church would offer, I'm like, okay, so he was really serious about it. Now, even the friends and the brother talk about, this big, presence that he has in the Mormon church. And that after Jodi came into the picture, his conversations started kind of turning to like morality about, because obviously, he's wanting to, have sex before marriage, and that is a huge no-no in this religion, and it's going to also play a huge part in the case. Now, one thing they say, which is kind of like, is because he and Jodi are having this premarital sex, this is going on, this kind of tawdry affair, almost immediately that's going to exclude her in his mind from being able to be, the Mormon wife type situation because, they've started off in sin. So do I agree agree with that. No, because I think each party's guilty. But, you know, just as much, Jodi could have been like, well, I don't want to marry him now because he's been doing this with me. It is what it is. We know she didn't think that way, obviously. But anyways, let's continue. So, you know, the friends are talking about the struggle, all this going on, and then they start talking about the turn, the something's not right with this girl situation. And Sky is describing the situation where they're all in the hot tub. And Sky's like, Jodi was like all over Travis, like straddling him, kissing on him, to the point that they were like, hello, does she know we're here? I mean, she said they acted like two middle schoolers who had, you know, gotten alone for the first time. It sounds so cringy, because I think we've all kind of seen situations like that, not really as adults. I mean, some of us might have seen it as adults, but, you know, in high school, stuff like that, where it's just like, hello, get a room, you know. So to assign those behaviors to grown adults, I'm not saying Travis, but to Jodi, you know, and all the things that says about her needing to show that in front of everybody in a hot tub with them. I mean, that's so creepy. So the friends also say this is when she starts showing how possessive of Travis she really is. You know, they say that she always had to sit next to him. She didn't like him talking to other females. If he left the room, she got worried. And she always had to make sure that everyone knew they were together. So, I mean, that right there is just like, yeah. And the same friend was like, you know, I've never seen someone this clingy with another human being. I mean, even just hearing about it sounds so creepy. So for me, hearing from these outside sources that are seeing this relationship essentially deteriorate from the outside in, they're watching it, made it even more powerful, because, you know, they obviously aren't smitten by Jodi. So they're kind of seeing her for what she is. And it's like, dude, something's not right here. Another friend that even said that they jokingly told Travis, I feel like we're going to find you chopped up in her freezer. And I mean, that is such a scary premonition. So basically all the friends are just like, look, the more we got to know her, the more freaked out by her behavior we were. I mean, it was that off. You know, they're like, she's going through his emails, she's eavesdropping on him, you know, checking up on him, all this stuff. I mean, just completely being obsessed with Travis. Now, Sky uses this one example where I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is such a clear sign of something's not right. And she basically says that Travis comes to her and says, look at this email that someone sent Jodi. And it's from this guy that's basically like, Travis doesn't deserve you. He's nowhere near you. He can't protect you. You know, you're home alone. I know when you're there, and all this stuff. And Sky immediately saw through it. She's like, Travis, she made this up. She wants you to ask her to move to Mesa. And he was like, not having it. He's like, no, she wouldn't do that. Da, 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 da. And that right there, I'm just like, oh my God, because that seems like such a manipulative tactic to use by anybody, but especially Jodi. And the fact that her friend called it right out. I mean, thank God Travis had some of these people. You can't say they didn't warn him, you know, but we know what it's like when you're smitten with somebody. It's hard to see things sometimes, especially something like that, because again, a lot of people are not expecting that kind of behavior from somebody. So these friends that they met at the house, Sky and Chris, you know, they basically are like, look, one day I guess Jodi and Travis were over there, they did their meeting, and they sequester Travis off in the bedroom. And they're kind of like, we need to talk to you. And they just lay it out in the line where they're basically like, we do not like this girl. This is not safe. We are worried for you. This is not right. And at one point, Sky's like, I'm telling Travis, she's at the door. She's at the door. And Travis is like, no. And so he kind of sneaks up and opens the door really quick. And Jodi is standing there, just like Sky said. And Sky said the look on her face was pure evil. And it was very scary. And basically Sky's like, look, this girl's got to go. You know, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. And so Sky basically confronts Jodi and tells her this stuff. And she said that Jodi didn't flinch, didn't do anything until she was like, are you going to tell Travis not to date me? And Sky's basically like, yeah, we already did, honey. And Jodi starts crying and doing all this stuff. And she's like, that was the last time that girl was allowed in this house. And I don't blame her. They are lucky to be alive. So the friends described how, you know, Jodi and Travis kept seeing each other over the next couple of months. And as we know from other evidence, you know, a lot of the friends aren't seeing the fact that they're still hooking up. You know, so the friends are talking about all these examples of Travis being like, oh my God, you know, she's possessive, I'm trying to get rid of her, you know, but, you know, she's coming over, she's sneaking in the house, you know, she even crawled through the doggy door and all this type of stuff. And, you know, basically sometimes he would sleep with her, sometimes he would get mad. And that sounds about right. You know, I can imagine that's probably how it played out, because no matter what, I mean, who wants somebody sneaking into their home like that? That is so wrong and so creepy. So hearing these friends say that, they're also like, she was his kryptonite. I mean, that's what so many people have said. He just had this weakness for her. He and she had this sexual energy that exploded, and it was just extremely toxic for each other. Now, the friends and everyone else in this documentary bring up this whole situation of when, technically Jodi and Travis start seeing other people, and now Travis is definitely like, I want a nice Mormon girl. Now, we know, again, from other stuff that he's still sleeping with Jodi occasionally. So he starts going out with this girl named Lisa, and basically Jodi's trying to sabotage this, and she's doing anything she can to break this situation up and scare Lisa off. So this is when allegedly, we don't have proof, that Jodi slashed Travis's tires a couple of times. One night Lisa was very afraid, so she asked Travis to stay the night. Apparently she slept in her room, Travis slept on the couch, and she got an email. Lisa received an email the next day from Jodi, basically talking about all this religious stuff, and like, if you lay with this man again, it's gonna be, you're in for it. And the word whoredom was used in the letter, and I don't mean to giggle at it, but the fact that Jodi used the word whoredom is just like, oh my god, that's my word for the day. I'm gonna find any excuse to use the word whoredom today. So all this religious stuff is in there, all this type of stuff. We know Jodi is just trying to intimidate this poor young lady. So, of course, during this whole time that all this is going on, during the breakup and whatnot, this is when Jodi had moved to Mesa. And again, the friends were like, what are you doing? Like, what, Travis, this is not right. So she had access to him. But also, again, as we see, he's still sleeping with her. And so, even her testimony on the stand that is woven into this documentary to kind of show this is what was really going on from what the friends are saying, and this is what Jodi is saying, and the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. But, Travis does eventually convince her to go back to California, like 8 months later or something like that. And she goes back and moves back in with her parents, grandparents, whatever. And Travis, his friends are like, this is the point that he was like, oh my God, I can have my life back. I can move on. This is a fresh start. And I'm sure it was like trying to put a drug down. But also, at this time, they don't know that they are still sleeping together and hooking up. He's not saying that. And that, unfortunately, is going to be what unravels. Now, the next part that we hear is the whole aspect of, okay, this trip's being planned. He's taking one girl to go to Cancun. Jodi is allegedly going to Salt Lake City. And this is obviously when she makes a detour and goes to Travis's. She murders him, and all of this takes place. Now, we do see, like, Detective Flores is in this. He talks about the interrogation aspect. It's nothing really new. He's talking about what's the obvious. Jodi was not going to admit to what she did. She was going to lie no matter what kind of evidence was presented to her. So the rest of the documentary basically just goes into a narrative that we've kind of seen. It's, Nancy Grace up there talking, it's the trial, it's this, it's that. Yes, she comes out to the trial. No longer does she have blonde hair. She looks like a librarian. She compulsively lies about every single thing. We know this at this point. So I'm not going to rehash that here. And actually, if you do want to hear recaps of the whole thing, I have those videos. They're going to be up here or down in the description. Just check those out. I just wanted to touch on this, like the parts that really jumped out to me about this documentary. So again, like that part of it, I like seeing the nuances of the friends' faces, what they had to say, what they had to hear, the, tying Jodi's testimony on the stand in to just show how psychotic this was, and the whole 9 yards. It made it that much more real. Again, these cases like this that have these deep psychological tabloidish aspect to them, they just keep the public's fascination, and they'll probably keep coming. So there's that. We're going to end it here. This will be a short video today. I hope y'all are doing well. Thank you for hanging out. Don't forget to check out the podcast. Share, like, comment, whatever you want to do. I appreciate it. Anything helps. And I will be talking to you soon.